Okay, so welcome everyone to this Keptn community meeting. Today is July 9th. We have again a lot of content to discuss, and for today I just want to start briefly with some community resources since we got a couple of requests and questions where to find some resources on Keptn, where to find the latest blog articles, where to find the latest presentation material, where to find like other things like the calendar. So we have the Keptn community Git repository. So if you go here, you will find basically everything you would need, I guess. So you will find ways how to communicate and get in touch with us. You will find information on the latest community meetings. You will also find the meeting calendar. So all the community meetings are also in the Google Calendar. So make sure to subscribe to this calendar. You have all the other links here, and then you might not have seen it, but here's another list of other Keptn resources. So if you're interested in some webinars, you would basically find them here. But if you're interested in like meetup recordings or other things like blog articles, you will find them in this section. We also provide here a link to the Keptn logos that you can use if you're talking about Keptn, and some slide decks that we already presented. And if you need some inspiration, you will also find this here. And as said, the resources, we compile a list of resources. So if you ever talk about Keptn, if you write some article about Keptn, just let us know or open a PR against this file and just indicate your name and a link to the resource that you've created. You'll also find a couple of recordings here. So it's a lot of content that we compile here. So just wanted to make sure everyone knows about this site here. That's basically it from a very short introduction. So I'm happy to see also some new Keptn contributors here. Again, if you want to start with Keptn, you will find good first issues via this link. So on GitHub, we compiled a list of good first issues, and we already got a couple of contributions the last weeks. So I think the last two community meetings we had external contributions presenting. Today we have one external contributor joining the meeting. If you want to present, just let us know. Yeah, otherwise, if you want to stay in touch with Keptn, make sure to subscribe also to the mailing list and join us in Slack. All the links are also provided at the top of this document, and I shared this document also in the chat. So if you're joining this meeting, you should be able to find all those links. The meeting is recorded and will also be available on YouTube later today or tomorrow. So with this information, I think I'm already handing over to some new updates that happened last week and during the course of this week. And I will share, or I will hand over to Ermin to give us an update on the UI look and feel of the bridge. So let's just stop my sharing. And again, in case you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A section or the chat option here in Zoom.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. Yeah, today I'm presenting just one pull request, rather a small one, because this week was mainly concerned about the old pull requests, which I already presented, and some documentation tasks. So there is not much to show yet, but the UI look and feel of the bridge has changed a little bit. And let's have a look at the issue first. Yeah, it's just about small changes. Color-wise, the font size has changed a little bit, and also the visibility of failed actions has improved. And as usual, I will do a live presentation. So now when you enter the bridge, you will see that the left menu, the color of the left menu changed. Also, the fonts of the labels here changed. This was actually a bug because the correct fonts were not loaded in the previous version. Since we use the Barista components and they use OpenSense. And here you can also see a failed event. So the visibility now changed. We have the red border on the left side, and instead of just the border, we the color of this stage is the background color is red, so it's more visible. Yeah, and the background color also of the menu on the right top side changed. So we have this gray background color here as well as we have it on the left side in the menu. Yeah, that's actually all about the changes. So the background color, the shadow of the header is removed. So this was just a slight change. And yeah, failed events are more visible. Yeah, that's from my side. I'm handing over to Andreas.
Cool, Ermin. Thank you. So I've worked on one issue of Keptn 18, and as you probably know, Keptn 18, here we defined the goal in order for simplifying the installer, and that we do not install Istio nor Nginx anymore. And I took care of the installer part, and here I removed everything related to Istio and Nginx and so on. And by doing this, we identified that we do not need any scripts anymore. So basically, we only have to apply manifests in order to install Keptn. And that's also the reason. Here we already got the first question. Okay, we can address this question afterwards. I identified that we do not need any script anymore, and therefore in future we will not have an installer pod anymore, which takes care of the installation. Instead, we have a Helm chart. And yeah, this basically is one really large pull request, which removes lots of scripts. And now I simply would like to show you how you can use already the Helm chart using the Helm CLI.
Quick question, could you perhaps a little bit zoom in? It's really hard to see something. Thank you.
I only share my terminal, now it should be better. So now I've added a repository to Helm, which I called Keptn latest, and I'm pointing this Keptn latest repository to a bucket inside our Google Cloud, and this is accessible from the outside world. So what I can now do, and I'm lazy, so I'm copying a command where I tell Helm to install exactly a new release, which I called Helm, which is contained exactly in this repository, and also the chart is called Keptn. Then I've specified a namespace, and I also set some values. For example, I would like to install the delivery plane, and for the API gateway Nginx, I would like to have a load balancer. And if the namespace does not exist yet, Helm creates those namespaces. So now I've installed this new package, and we can now have a look better on the respective pods already have started. You can see the pods are already starting. In the meantime, I can also show you that Keptn now doesn't come with two namespaces anymore. We only are using a single namespace, which we call Keptn. Before we had Keptn and Keptn data store, which is not needed anymore. Can have a look at the. This, of course, takes a while. For example, we can see here, for example, the distributors are failing because probably the NATS cluster was not already available, and therefore they are restarting. We're almost done. So now all pods are running. Of course, we can also have a look at the services, and as I specified, the API gateway Nginx now has an external IP address which can be used in order to access the API as well as the bridge. Finally, I also can use Helm in order to uninstall Keptn. In the meantime, we can have a look at the questions. So Keptn is uninstalled. And you can see the ports are terminating. The corresponding issue in the CLI will, of course, be presented in some of our community meetings, but I guess next time. Florian, you worked on it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So this will it's gonna be introduced next week.
So are there any questions how we are installing Keptn in the future?
I would have a question. Is this one alternative way, or is it the new way how to do it?
It's the new way and the only way.
And does it mean that you need to have Helm installed on your local machine because you just installed it with Helm, or will it be for the user of Keptn, will it be the same experience that you just download the CLI and you do a Keptn install?
And this is a really perfect question, and the answer is the user will have the same behavior as before, so he can use the Keptn CLI, and technically the Keptn CLI contains the Helm libraries, and therefore in the background we are also installing Keptn using Helm in the CLI, but the user does not have to have Helm installed on his local machine, right?
Okay, yeah, that's great. So no external dependencies for the user, same installation experience, but just everything makes it a little bit more easier because we don't have any scripts anymore, and it's just applying Helm charts. Yeah.
And much faster actually, because we do not have to install Istio anymore, and also not Nginx. All right. So.
Okay. So next, if there are no more questions, we will move on. So next on the list is Thomas.
Yes. So let's share my screen.
Oh, sorry. We had one comment and one question from Imre. I don't want to skip this. It was basically the when are the docs being updated, and if there should be an issue for updating.
I take this one because I'm working on that.
Okay, so yep. we will hear the answer later.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, sorry Thomas for interrupting.
No problem. Yes, this printer worked on two items. The first one was, as discussed in the last community meeting, that we want to unify the API and bridge on the Ingress on one service, so that we do not have to use two separate host names, and therefore also not need to use xpio and dpio anymore. So this has been implemented, and currently it looks like this. So currently everything on my host is exposed under API Keptn and so on, but you can also expose it directly as a load balancer, as a node port, and so on. And if I browse directly to API Keptn and so on, I will get directly to the bridge. So as you see there, the URLs got rewritten. Some of you may have used deep links to the bridge, such as I think project and sockshop and cards. So you use projects, the project sockshop, and the service cards. This gets also rewritten, so it's also working in the new version. And
It's, sorry, Thomas. It's kind of difficult to read the URL because it's the screen or the resolution is quite high. So the browser window itself is fine, but the URL is really small.
Yes, sorry. Yes, and the other thing is you can also reach the API here. So if you only hit API, you get to the Swagger UI, and you can use the API as you did before. Yes, this was the first one. And the second one is a bit of an older one. So I wanted to implement health checks for the Kubernetes services, such as the API, the configuration service, and so on. And therefore, I've written, we added an additional endpoint to every service. And if you look at the API service afterwards, let's describe. You will see here that there is a liveness probe, which is calling the port 1099 and health every 5 seconds. And this endpoint does nothing more than returning OK. And if it does not return OK, then it's the port will restart. Yes, are there any questions on these two issues?
Yeah, I have a question on the health endpoints. For our customers, so I've written some services. It's good to implement the health endpoint as well, right?
Yes, I think we can talk later. It's very easy to implement this.
Yeah, and I know,
because
but is there something?
Because I added it into the Go utils.
Okay.
So it's a simple thing you only have to include.
Okay, I will reach out to you tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thomas, I'm just curious, is this pull request already merged?
Yes, I think the one with the health endpoint is about to being merged, and the second one with the API endpoint is already merged.
Okay.
So then, who is the next one?
We move on to Florian.
You're muted, Florian.
I just had to find the unmute button, but now I'm here. All right, today I want to show you 4 pull requests. The first one considers the lighthouse service. So the issue here was that if we had a preceding test execution, for example, by the JMeter service, and the test run was failing, the lighthouse service works that way that it still will evaluate SLIs you have defined in your SLI file in order to get additional information, even though the test run itself has failed. And the way it works in that case is it will calculate all the metrics and retrieve them and calculate the score. But regardless of the end result of the score, it will overwrite the result and will set it to fail because the preceding test run has failed. And the issue here was that this was not reflected in a comprehensible way. So therefore it might have led to some confusion. And the fix for that was actually really simple. So I just added a description on why the test has been marked as failed, even though the overall score might have been enough to pass the score. So for example, if you didn't include the error rate in the evolution of your SLI file, but the JMeter service detected a high error rate. All right. Are there any questions about that? If not, I will move on to the next issue. So the next one considered the CLI. So here we had the issue that if you exported the kubeconfig environment variable, the CLI didn't pick that up and still used the kubeconfig that was set by default. So that where is it? In the home directory .kube/config. So that was always used by the CLI. And if you wanted to use another cluster by exporting the kubeconfig variable, the CLI ignored that. And that led to some confusion, especially if we, for example, wanted to install Keptn on Minikube, for example, or Micro Kubernetes, where we usually set this kubeconfig variable to the one you want to use. And that led to some confusion because Keptn then tried to install itself on maybe the wrong cluster that you didn't intend to install it on. And that has been fixed. So now if you set the kubeconfig variable, the CLI will use that kube context and install Keptn on the correct cluster. So this is the way it behaves on the kubectl CLI. Any questions about that? All right, then let's go on with the next one. So this is yeah, quite a big change in terms of the perspective of the user. So if you recall in previous Keptn versions, when you executed the Keptn install command without any other parameters, you always got the full installation. And only by adding the use case quality gates flag, you installed the Keptn core but not the continuous delivery services. And we thought it would make more sense that if you just execute the Keptn install command without any further parameters, you would just get the core, and then you can extend it by specifying the use case, in that case continuous delivery. So this is now going to be the new possible value for the use case flag, and that way you will get the new installation. But yeah, the new normal, as they say nowadays, will be the core installation with just the control plane, which will support the quality gates use cases and also the remediation use cases. But to do continuous delivery, you will have the use case continuous delivery flag. Any questions about that?
I don't have a question, but I have a nice side effect here. So if you decide to install only quality gates, and after a few weeks you would also like to use Keptn in order to do the deployment, you can now make a simple Helm upgrade and add your additional components which are necessary to also do continuous delivery. So basically, you can do a second Keptn install, and in the background we are doing a Helm upgrade, and then you have also the, for example, Helm service and gatekeeper service, which are necessary in order to do continuous delivery use cases, which is, I guess, really nice for the user.
Yeah, exactly. So having the Helm charts instead of the old installer makes things a lot easier. All right, and then finally, one issue related to the Helm service. This change was necessary because, as Andreas already mentioned, we do not install Istio automatically with Keptn anymore, but you can provide your own Istio installation and configure it in a way that that best fits you. So now you can also bring your own Ingress objects for Istio, and do not have to rely on the ones that Keptn automatically set up for you. And because of that, we had to introduce a way for the user to configure the Helm service and also the OpenShift service to know which domains are going to be used for your applications that you're going to onboard with Keptn. And this is done with this config map. So the config map basically provides the option to set the Istio gateway, then the Ingress port, the Ingress protocol, so either HTTPS or HTTP, and then finally the Ingress hostname suffix, which is essentially the old app domain variable that we had in the Keptn domain config map from previous installations. And by setting those appropriately in the Helm service, you will still be able to profit of the virtual services that are being generated for by the Helm service for the onboarded services. All right, are there any questions about that? All right.
I don't have a question about that, but Florian, before handing over to the next one, can you please go to the working items and to the Kanban board? Because I saw that you still have a couple of issues in the ready for review column. And can you give us at least a short update on that, on each issue? Just keep it very short.
Yeah. So basically that one was covered by the one I just showed. That one just basically extended the content of the support archive by checking all the available Ingress options within the cluster. So basically it checks if the Ingress you have configured is reachable and the types of services that are being deployed in the Keptn interface by the installer. This is to check whether the API gateway was deployed as a load balancer or a cluster IP or node port. And it also checks for an Istio installation. Basically, it should make life a little bit easier when it comes to debugging Ingress options. That one is a little bit bigger, so I wanted to show that in the next community meeting.
Okay.
That one, I think I showed that in the last community meeting already. So this is just exactly. So here I just extended the log output if you're using the verbals flag during the Keptn installation. But that I have shown last. This is quite a big one, but from a user perspective, not that exciting, because basically in some cases we had a timeout when reading from the MongoDB database, and in that pull request I did some performance tuning. So I'll leave that up to you if you want to see that in the next community meeting or not.
I think we can move it over to the dance column. Oh, no. Andreas' opinion is that we don't move it.
Okay.
Let's leave it there.
Sorry, this was, this should have been a private message to Jürgen. Sorry.
Ah, okay. Then
In that case, I'll move it over again.
let's move it over.
Sorry, we were we got the information that screen sharing was not working for some of our participants in the meeting. So we had a side conversation if anything was, if the setting was messed up. So,
Okay.
but it should work now for everyone. Otherwise, please indicate in the chat or in the QA if something's not working for you.
All right, and the last one will actually become
Obsolete
because of the changes we are going to present next week.
Thanks a lot for the clarification.
All right, no problemo.
Okay, with this we can move on to Christian. Since it's an empty list, I think we can.
Because I can't write into the Google document, so it's.
You are not invited here, so.
But it's fine. It's always a surprise, so I can say, hey, I've nothing to present today.
Okay, so you want to do a screen sharing or?
Yeah, I can do it.
Cool. Make sure that you can also have access to the Google Doc.
Yeah, so you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I was working on two issues. So the first one is a version checker interrupts user when there's an error, like he cannot reach get Keptn API or something like this. So let me, just show the behavior. So let's edit my host file and giving him some stupid stuff that he should not reach get Keptn API. And now we're forcing issue by, let me quickly check config that I set back the checking date. So we will force Keptn to check for a new version. And what should be happening now is when I'm running a normal Keptn command, that nothing should be returned as an error when it cannot reach the get Keptn API domain. So it will still time out, but it will not throw an error. Except if you're running Keptn version, then it should actually return error for not reaching. So you will see. Come on, throw it. Yeah. So here we have the error. Good. So this was the first one. And let me quickly just getting my host file back to normal state. And the second one was Keptn API. Extends the Keptn API to retrieve metadata of the Keptn installation. Was labeled as good first issue, I have to say. No, it wasn't a good first issue. It was actually, for me, a pain in the ass. Oh, I'm sorry. But finally made it. So now when we are generating support archive, let me generate one, you can see it will also query my new API endpoint. Let me quickly accept. So we have here the metadata endpoint introduced, where it will return namespace, labels, version, bridge version, and later on Keptn services installed. We can curl the API endpoint directly right now, so we can see what will return. So we have the bridge version, Keptn label, which is currently set to Keptn version from the Swagger UI, and the namespace. And last but not least, in the generated support package, what is the file name? Keptn support archive. Zip. Keptn support archive. We have the metadata JSON. And here we have the metadata of the API available. Yep, that's it from my side.
Cool improvement. Like it. Great. Are there any questions for Christian? If not, we move on to Andi Grabner, but I think he's not in the meeting today.
No, Andy is not, has
And is
not
not here.
joined. This
In
means
this
that I
case,
will.
we can move on to Johannes. And you
All right. Yeah, I have two issues I want to share with you folks. The first one is that, yeah, a while ago, Adam reported a problem with Minikube. And the problem is that when you have Minikube installed on your machine, and then you put Keptn on Minikube, and you start and stop Minikube during running, during your machine is running, everything is perfectly fine. But when you reboot your VM or your machine, and you then do a start of the Minikube environment, then there is a problem with the MongoDB. The problem is well known. It's a problem with the permissions of a local folder, and we agreed to not address this problem in terms of a Keptn change, because it's not Keptn related, it's Minikube related. And thanks to our rockstar Christian, who proposed, or he gave us a recommendation how to fix this problem, we use this approach to provide a troubleshooting section in the Keptn docs. And now it says, when you're running Keptn on a Minikube and you're rebooting your Minikube or your machine, then you will likely run into a crash loop backoff. And for overcoming this problem, you would need to add an init container. And this init container for the MongoDB deployment takes care of setting the proper permissions on this folder. But to be honest, instead of using Minikube for running Keptn as a standalone version, go with keys. It's more reliable, and we have better experience with using keys instead of Minikube. This is, to be honest, our recommendation. All right, then the second issue is a problem that we observed in the last couple of days. Thanks to Imre, he also brought up this problem, and it's the situation that a Keptn grade project does not work because it does not work when you specify a Git upstream to a GitHub repository. And the problem is that since a couple of days, it takes now longer to clone a repo from GitHub, and this runs into a timeout on the Keptn end. For some reason, it takes longer than 5 seconds, and we have a timeout of 5 seconds, and this is now a problem. The cool thing is that in the master branch for the upcoming 0.7 release, this is already gone, this timeout, but still we have to provide a patch version for the shipyard service to make it possible to still create a project with the new changes on the GitHub side. And therefore, I want to point you to this public service announcement, project creation failed when using Git upstream. And in this PSA, I explain how you can apply a patch version of the shipyard service so that you will still be able to create a project that is pulling a Git repository from GitHub. All right, yep, that's from my end. Now let's move on. Yeah, I heard that in the last couple of community meetings, you heavily discussed the CAP 18, and Andreas showed us today really great progress on this CAP, and this CAP is currently driving the roadmap. And when we are done with implementing all the issues for CAP 18, then we are ready to release 0.7. And this is the reason why I want to now go on to the working items.
Johannes, this might be probably a good point in time to also address the question from Imre regarding the documentation on reworking the whole installation experience with removing the different options of GKE, AWS, EKS.
Thanks a lot for that, because Imre, as you can see here in the progress column, I have two issues. One is simplifying the installation, and I will take care of updating the documentation. And the second issue that also corresponds to CAP 18 is that we need to provide documentation how to expose services that you are deploying with Keptn, and therefore I'm also working currently on an issue which is called Configure Istio for Continuous Delivery. All right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Johannes.
All right. Imre, may I ask you for a short update on this issue you implemented? I mean, you removed the platform tag from the CLI. Can you give us at least a short update on that one?
Okay, so I cannot share my screen actually. Can you open the issue?
I will. No, I will stop sharing and I will give you the chance.
Just a second. Now we moved again. This always looks a little bit different. So let me just promote you to panelist. And Imre should join back in a second, hopefully. And he will be then able to share also the screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the issue that I work on. Basically, it's remove the platform, several options from platform flag. So previously, we have many installation for AKS, EKS, GKE, and PKS, Pivotal Kubernetes Service, I think. And we basically remove these four and then just left these two, Kubernetes and OpenShift. And we basically make the Kubernetes as a default value if user doesn't specify any platform. I think that's all from my end. Yeah, and another pull request that I created is for updating the documentation. Basically, there was a broken link, and then I fix it and I add some unit tests for it.
Yep, I forgot to bring the last issue you mentioned into the working items, but many thanks for taking it and working on that one.
Yeah. No.
Really great work.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Then I will again take over control of the screen. And I already updated the column for ready for review. And here we have still 2 pull requests to get merged, and Florian is discussing this issue next time. In the progress column, we have that one, Keptn configure bridge, don't expose the service.
Exactly. This is about to be finished. Just need some polishing.
All right. Then, Andreas, what's the status on that one?
The documentation is missing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then Ermin and we were together working on updating the documentation for the Keptn bridge. Tomorrow we will have a final review, and when the review is done, we will close that issue. And as I already mentioned, I'm also working on updating the documentation for the install process and also for exposing services that get deployed by Keptn.
But then we could actually close this other issue, right?
That one.
Yeah.
Yours. Mm-hmm. I mean, from an implementation side, you are done. You showed us today that Helm and Helm upgrade and Helm install works. And yeah, I'm okay in closing this one. And I really want to ask you for your help to get those 2 documentation issues correctly done. Then are you okay when I move it over to ready for review, or actually to close it?
You can move it into done because I presented this.
Let's close it. Perfect. And let's do a joint work on updating the documentation.
Sure.
Thanks. And here, just have a reminder that when we are when we released Keptn 0.7, we also should make the JMeter extended service deprecated in the Keptn contrib repo. Cool. And now, yeah, this brings me to the backlog. Let's have a view on the backlog and the issues that are ready to get implemented. And like every week, I ask you guys to raise your hand whenever you want to do a certain task. The first one is that we want to add Kubernetes recommended labels to all Keptn deployments, services, and so on, so that we are aligned with tagging and labeling our resources the same way Kubernetes recommends it. Who wants to go through the manifests and add the labels to the deployments?
I think I can work on that.
All right, cool. Thanks, Imre.
Isn't this part of the Helm charts you're deploying right now?
Right.
As manifest?
Right. So if you have any questions when you are implementing this issue, please let me know, because I pretty much know the Helm charts. Yeah.
Sure.
He needs to leave a comment first on the issue so that you can assign him.
Imre, can you just post a comment on the issue that you are going to take it, and then I'm able to assign you?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Then the next one. The next one is a CLI issue where it says remove -- scheme equals HTTP when using Keptn CLI with HTTP instead of HTTPS.
I have to take it because it was me. I introduced this crappy flag.
All right. Oh, sorry. This one will. Here we go. And from that one, I have to remove Andreas. Okay. The next one is fixing all the integration tests that broke after the CAP 18. As kind of a placeholder for taking a look at all integration tests and yeah, taking care of fixing all of those. Who wants to take?
I will do it.
Okay, thanks. Florian. Then the second one or the next one is, I think, should go along with fixing the integrations test. But to be honest, I'm not sure whether we need to address this problem today or in the next week, because it also will become obsolete from my understanding.
Exactly, yeah.
Or yeah, it will need some modification to make sense again. But I will do that together.
Okay. All right. Then the next one, this is a bug that is related to the heat map in the bridge. Ermin, what do you think?
We haven't got any feedback yet from Hayden. As Christian commented, it could be due to an older version of the bridge, and because we had already a similar issue, that it might be that this is already fixed.
How long would it take you to verify whether we still have this problem?
Yeah, I wouldn't need feedback from Hayden, either the payload of the event, of the events there, or any other feedback. So I can try to reach out to him.
Okay, yeah, this would be cool. Can I assign you this issue?
Yeah, you can assign it to me.
Yeah, Bert is also in the Slack channel. He's quite active, so you should be able to get a hold of him.
Okay, I will try it via
Bert van der
Slack
Heijden.
channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, yeah, the next one. It's enabling highlighting in tooltip in the heat map. Well, yeah, this issue is all about this gentleman, about this way of highlighting the currently selected column. Ermin,
Yeah, and actually it's about contributing to the Barista
Barista.
components to have the seat map component in Barista, since currently we are using high charts and this functionality is not available there. Since I'm on holiday next week, I will leave that one in the backlog
Okay.
for now. And when I'm back from holiday, and if it's still open, I will take that one as well.
Okay, yeah, then let's be honest, then we will not have this feature in 0.7. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
Then we will postpone it to 0.8. Yeah, and will not be in 0.7. Okay. Then here we have an issue that says upgrader. Yeah, support the upgrader of 0.6 to 0.7 with respect to the changed installer.
Yeah, this issue needs discussion. So we have to wrap our head around this, how we can do this, because in the background we do not have, for example, a core YAML which can be applied without Helm anymore. So let's discuss on the issue how to proceed here, and then we can assign somebody who takes care.
Okay, or would it be okay to assign all the people that should drive this discussion?
Yeah, let's do that. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Who wants to be involved in discussing the upgrader? I mean, me too. Okay, yeah, then let's drive it in a joint effort. Okay, then here we have a validation task where we want to validate the implementation of the cloud events against the SPEC. It's more of double checking whether the implementation aligns with the SPEC. Who wants to take this one? I mean, I'm okay also doing this task. Then I will take it. All right, guys, and yeah, today I pulled in two issues, and I think the core team knows what those two issues mean. The first one is preparing the Keptn 0.7 documentation and double checking whether all the features are properly documented and explained. I already created pull request and a branch on the documentation where we can all work on and update the documentation the way it should be. And last but not least, it's the release 0.7 issue. And yeah, this is always a crazy issue because it is a checklist of 150 bullet points. And this is the way we are going to release the next Keptn version, and with all the tasks that are necessary to get it out the door. And yeah, I think it does not make sense to assign someone to this issue. It is a joint work from the entire team, but when someone wants to get involved into this process, feel free to reach out to the team, to us, and we are very we are very happy to get some support there.
And I guess it's important to note that getting involved can also be just testing the master branch or the release branch. So basically making a preview of the use cases.
Yep, correct. Maybe I have or can use 1 minute to just scroll over this process. Sorry, wrong one. This one.
So how much are those two working items dependent on all the other things we discussed today? All the other things have to be finished before?
Yeah,
or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. As we agreed, or as Ermin said, we will not make it possible to get this feature into the 0.7 release, but this column has to be finished before we can start to work on the release. And then we do a feature freeze so that we don't accept any new feature after this point, except of bug fixes or problems that we identify during the testing phase. But I will just scroll over. Yeah, step 1 is that we release the specification. Then we release the examples, our card service. The next step is then the official release of the Go utils. Then a bunch of contrib services that we think are important to get also updated and released in this process. Then the Keptn release itself. After we have a release branch where we have a possibility to test the new version, then we are going over to a preparation phase where we double check the documentation. Then also the tutorials have to get updated. And when this is done, we will then test Keptn on different Kubernetes versions. That's a GKE or an OpenShift cluster or a Minishift cluster we are testing Keptn on. And then finally, yeah, we go over to officially release the contrib services as well as Keptn. It is a very long process, but we want to work hard to not oversee any issues, any problems, and to make everybody or to make the next release successful. All right. Has someone?
This will also be like the main part of the next community meeting, or is it expected to have the release before the next community meeting?
When we really consider the testing phase and the preparation phase, then I assume that's not available by next Thursday. We will have a release branch by next Thursday, but testing will not be done.
So it's still okay to indicate anytime next week to be included in this releasing process and to take over some testing efforts. There are also the tutorials that will be updated or have to be updated to match the new release, because we actually, once the release is out, we encourage all the folks to use the newest release and not to use on a new installation, not to go with the previous version anymore. Are there any more questions for Johannes or for the team here? If not, I think we kind of made it to the end of the hour and also to the end of our list. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining this community meeting. See you all again next week, and have a nice evening. Bye.
Bye.